to myself again. But it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on the thoughts I cannot say to you. If I don't say the words, then maybe it's not true.
Good evening, welcome to NUFC Matters. It's Friday night, which means the weekend's nearly here, and I'm joined by Keith, Mitch and Stu. It's the three amigos. Steve Hastie's having a night off, and Ian Mearns is taking his lass out instead of cooking at home. So just got the four of us for company tonight as we take you through 2 hours of madness, mayhem, and a bit of Newcastle stuff as well. And I guess, Keith, we'll start with the breaking news about Ekatike. He's decided to stay at his club, which I was unaware of until I got the message there from you guys to say that was what had happened. And he's now going to hang about and wait until Barcelona or Bayern Munich come in, Keith.
I heard Real Madrid or Barcelona, but it's just the same. It's a shame, you know what I mean? He was, I think his agent's a maverick, and when you look at his agent's whole setup, I think he's pushed a lot along to make decisions. But at the end of the day, the kid's old enough to play for France. He's old enough to, sign a contract, collect the money. So he's old enough to tell his agent he wants to move. And clearly, he must have been nervous in January and nervous again now. But I was disappointed. I've got a mate who watches Rennes every week, and he says he's going to be a great player. So I was disappointed we didn't get him. But the more it's gone on, and then when I heard the day, I think it's best just to move on. I think there's a big danger if it dragged on much longer of alienating fans. And for me, as good as he was, you want people who's hungry to wear the shirt. You want people that run through walls for you. And if you look at the attitude epitomised by Dan Burn last season, he would run through walls for you. And how many Mackems turned around and said, "Well, what have you bought Dan Burn? He's nobody. He's a reserve at Brighton." But Dan Burn's been just a legendary at Newcastle. So for me, I think the spirit we're looking for is Trippier, Camaraderie, and Dan Burn, and I think we want more of that. And I think there's a risk, of the dress. I think there's a risk for the kid if he came over and he didn't hit the ground running after all the fuss. So it's sad, I don't like, but I'd rather go and chase like somebody who's really hungry and somebody who's as good as him, because at the end of the day, he's had a decent start to his first season in France, but he's not in the Real Madrid, Barcelona first team levels yet. You've got a kid at PSG at the minute who can't get in behind Messi, Neymar, and Mbappe, and that lad's scored 22 goals in 40 games. You know what I mean? He's the same kind of age, so, and he's patiently waiting. I'd rather go after that like that. He was doing it at that level and being held out by them three. But I've got to say, disappointed, but happy to move on. It's a positive, it's a positive deal when you get out of the way.
Mitch, it was one of those transfers that went on and on and on. And I guess, I was still confident we might get it over the line. I wasn't going with all the newspaper hype, but it's now off. And he says it's off. He's staying where he is.
Right. Move on. His loss. Look, he's in this situation where his agent allegedly is a school friend. And I'm always wary of people in relationships with agents like that who are schoolmates or their brother or family members and extended family members. They don't act in the best interest of the agent, of the client always. They're looking at a bigger picture that we aren't. Also, do you know what? If you've not got the guts to come and sign the contract and you're worried about how you're gonna behave, you haven't got the guts to be in my first team, kid. Now, let's just move on. We've now got money we can play with. I'll be interested to see what kind of value Dan Ashworth can get out of the money we were going to outlay on him. And good luck to him in his future career. The other thing that stuck out with me with him, and I mentioned it a couple of weeks ago, the hamstring injuries had a Kieran Dyer-like feel about them. And when you turn around and you get a player like that who people say, right, this is the next Thierry Henry, it's worth a gamble to go for them. Because if he is the next Thierry Henry, what a hell of a player he'll be. But if he's actually the next Kieran Dyer, nah.
Yeah, Stu, it's something which we discussed last night. I still was hopeful we'd get him over the line, but it's not to be. We'll move on, as Mitch says.
Yeah, well, personally, what I read was the manager said that he doesn't want to go, and I think the manager's going to say that it might just be one of these moves to get their fee boosted up a bit. But this has dragged on since January. The alarm bells were ringing then, and all the information we were getting in January was that the fee was agreed and the player wasn't too keen to move. He was young, he didn't want to leave his family, new language, etc. And fair play, if that's the story, that's the story. And we've got plenty of other targets. So Ekatiki is no longer, if that is the case, and it would be really nice in 3 or 4 years' time to watch his agent come crawling and begging, can he sign for the mighty Newcastle United? And, you know, we'll have the pick. And we all know we're going one way, and that our trajectory is on the way up. And if he doesn't want to come and join the ride and just wants to go to someone already at the top, that says more about his character than anything else, you know, to be part of something. I mean, if you're joining, I always think if someone's just won the Champions League, would you want to join them? Because the chances of them repeating that is always more difficult, isn't it? You know, you've missed the glory, where if you've got a club on the up, then you can be part of it. But that's just a personal thought. If he doesn't come, he doesn't come. We discussed last night that there's other places or other areas of the team that we need to improve. And I'm sure over the next week or two, we'll see people shipping out. And that'll generate more money. And something I discussed with Keith during the week as well is I know there's going to be, I said it to me, 10 things to calm down and everything, but this summer's going to be a record transfer window for sure, the way the other clubs are spending. And we'll spend more money than any time in our history. And we should just be grateful for what we've got and know that the owners, especially the Saudi-based ones, aren't going to settle for second best, and they won't rest until we're at the top. And then they'll concentrate even harder to keep us there. So if Ekatiki is not going to be part of that, then, as Mitch just said, his loss.
Yeah, Alan, if you can stick a link in the chat to that article. I haven't seen it. I'd like to see it, mate, if you can. But yeah, please send a link to that particular article. Yeah, Keith, I'm just the Botman situation as well. I think it's got some of the fans in the chat just saying, Botman announcement, when will it be? I mean, we've done the deal, haven't we? But it is a bit, it has a feeling of a bit strangeness. Is it just a technicality?
I'm not worried at all about that. I don't think the club would bring him over, and I don't think he would come over if there's going to be any hitches there. He's talked, today he's talked about the 4 things he wants to sort out: is his house, his car, his bank account. It was those 4 things. English mobile. You wanted to sort English mobile out. So you don't start buying houses and cars and get English mobiles. You don't intend to do the deal. So I'm not sure. I don't know why. It was brought over and started, and then it hasn't been concluded. But I've got no fears. I don't think Newcastle would put their head on the line like that. I know the press has rushed off and seen him come over, and they could be announcing, say, look, Botman's here, and the club have not said anything as such. But I've got no fears at all. He'll be a Newcastle player, and I think he's the right kind of bloke to play for us. I'm not worried at all.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It's just. I think it just seems a bit strange to people, Mitch, doesn't it, that he hasn't been like paraded and announced, etc. We've seen the photographs on his social media, etc.
If you remember when we did the deal for Bruno, there was a slight delay because the club had to announce it to the French Stock Exchange, and I suspect there may be something similar going on there. That a French club have to make an announcement, and that next possible time might be Monday. So that would make sense why a little delay. I've also seen it suggested that they wanted the deal pushed into the next financial year, or the next season rather, so the deal will be announced after July the 1st. So there's lots of reasons why it may be happening. You don't bring your entire family, your dogs, and everything else you can get your hand on, and have them all standing on the pitch with the shirt if you've got no intention of staying. The deal's done. Don't stress. We're moving on to other targets soon.
Well said.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what you keep saying as well, Stu, isn't it? You know, you're emphasising this is going to be a big window.
Oh, it'll be huge. And I think it was Sean Casey that first indicated about they had to be in July. And then people criticised him, then jumped on the bandwagon, and it's now seems to be public knowledge. But he's signed. You know, the fact is he's done a 5-year deal, so we know he's coming. There's something I just seen Spenny's name in the chat there, and I got wrong from not mentioning last time was on the Amigos. So I'll mention his name, keep him happy. But what I did learn was last week when I was in Dubai, or last weekend I was in Dubai with Mitch. I was on a study conducting how much alcohol my liver could take over a short period of time. And so I couldn't watch. Well, I did start watching last week's show live, but then got called into the bar and stayed there. So I managed to watch it over 3 or 4 periods, and the last I finished was on Wednesday. And I learned from one of the comments when we were talking about the Tuxedo Princess. So it is, Three Amigos is educational, because I didn't know that Spenny was a joiner, or used to be a joiner, because he said he worked on the doors there, didn't he? So, I think fair play. You learn something on the show. You might have the people knocking it, but you learn something every week. I think it's fantastic.
Classic. I'm sure you'll have something to say about that. Yeah,
could have been the painter or something. But...
Could have been that. You did well. Mad Mark, good evening. He says, should it become a priority for the owners to attempt to purchase the land behind the Gallagher back in order to safeguard the future growth of the club with development work not yet started on it? Keith, I mean, that one's a bit clouded at the moment, isn't it? We know that the land was sold, and you know that the chances of expanding had gone with Ashley's regime, but the stories that we picked up on this show were that land was ripe for development, but that the company that owned it had now got into problems, got into difficulties, and potentially that land could be purchased again by Newcastle. It might have already been purchased, who knows? But is expansion a priority? We touched on it last night on the show that we did last night, and lots of people saying, should we have a bigger stadium? The numbers that were getting mentioned were like 100,000 last night, Keith. What's your take on that?
Mike actually owned the land, and if it was his intention to develop the club, so obviously was when he bought the land, he could have just gone ahead and done that straight away. He sold it off to a property company. The property company subsequently got into got into financial difficulties. I was told that the company was Dickinson Days were going to move onto the land and take the building over, and then was told they pulled out, and that the company itself was seeking more venture capital to keep the project going. Whether or not that's true or not, that's the educated view, and that's what some lawyers are saying. I think it can be bought. I think everything can be bought for a price. I think that could be bought. And if there's mileage in buying that, the Rubens would buy it. It's as simple as that. You'd even give it a second thought. The Saudis would buy it, but the Rubens would go in and buy Newcastle land if it has a value straight away. So they may well have done, or the Saudis may have bought it. But if there's any value in it, they've got the cash to be able to make that land travel. And the company that's got it is supposedly in a precarious position. So don't rule it out. However, on the projects you see, I don't know how much development that'll bring, because if they develop it and increase the Gallagher, it's going to make the East Stand even more lopsided. So you see all these projects where they turn the pitch around and do various different things. But in terms of numbers, what Newcastle could stomach, I mean, they said 30,000. I was talking to somebody, it was number 28,000 in a queue. Then said there's 20,000 people or 30,000 people trying to buy a membership. But for those tickets that went on sale last week, so if we've got 55,000 stadium now, there's nobody could tell us that we wouldn't fill 85,000 seats. If we had that kind of size stadium, we would fill it. Because this is before people start coming from Saudi to watch us. It's before the people start moving up country to watch us. Just the people in the area that's trying to buy tickets that will go to games week in, week out. So I think we need at least another 30,000. Where you get that at St. James's, I think you'd have to buy that land.
Okay, Mitch, we did discuss this last night about plans and things that we'd seen over the years, and but is it a priority at the moment?
I personally don't think it is. It's not a priority in terms of we need it now. However, it should be on the agenda if they've got a cohesive plan for development and growth. Particularly now that kind of investment does go into FFP calculations. That's going to hinder things on the pitch by going too fast off the pitch. And it's a delicate balance now. However, that's not to say they shouldn't be looking ahead and trying to plan and thinking, well, if we might need that land in the future, let's get it bought now. They've got the money to do it. You know, that land purchase at the kind of price you could get it for would be a nothing purchase to both the Rubens and PIF rather. So is it worth securing it to keep options open? They've already made a statement via Amanda and Maydad that they see the future, certainly for now, as St James's Park at the heart and soul of the city. But that equally doesn't mean that they can't be talking about, well, what next? And what can you do with St James's Park, which is a really difficult set of circumstances because of situations with listed buildings, restraining orders, restriction orders on certain bits of land, bats and bloody whatever else. But equally, like we touched on last night, it's a different world now. It's like, 20, 30 year on from when we last had these discussions about grounds. It's a different city. It's a different set of politicians. It's a different way of thinking. And we've got a very different set of people who are prepared to invest in the region in a time when the region has lost investment from Brussels, is being ignored by London again. And we've got people who are here desperate to invest in us as a region, not just as a city, not just as a football club, but as a region. And I think any local authority would be daft not to engage positively with any idea. That would just be suicide in a time when money's short and we need investment to find investment from somewhere, and we've got somebody very willing to invest in us. And so I think the conversations that could be had are exceptionally different, and it's all about fostering relationships. That's part of what all these daft things that we've been involved in. One of the things that people were desperate to get were working relationships with local authorities. That's why you, Steve Hasty, Bill Corcoran, my dad, and a few others pulled as many strings as they could to get people to talk to different local authorities, whether that was over Newcastle United, Durham Cricket Club, and all the other bloody cockamamie schemes we've been dragged into along the way, where you sit down and think, I've just got a PDF with this on it. How did I get here? And so this is about not just investing in the club and the ground, it's about investing in the region. And I think it would be daft for anybody not to wish to cooperate with all of that.
Stu, it's something that people will continually bring up because there's a lot of people who didn't get tickets this week, and the 1,000 that were put up for grabs. A lot of people will have missed out on membership as well. They'll be feeling as if they're at the back of the very longest queue that's been at St James's since the 90s. But, from your perspective, is it a priority at the moment?
I think it's a priority for the owners to look at it and have something in place and be ready to go as and when. But I'm in slight disagreement of Keith saying 85,000 would fill that easy. We looked at the 90s, we had to drop down when the expansion was to 36,500, and there was huge demand. And once it broke to 52, we filled that. But if there's a lull, and football is in cycles, that 52 become 10,000 give the season tickets back. And if you've got an 85,000 stadium and you're sitting there with like 30,000 seats empty, it's not a good look at all. And if you look at the conurbation of Tyneside and even the surrounding areas, could it sustain like 85,000? You see people mention 100,000. I think the ideal figure, in my personal opinion, would be around about 65,000, because something you said yourself, Steve, was that there was a lot of people on this 30,000 list at trying different methods to get onto the. There was people on iPhones, there's people on the iPads, there's people ringing on landlines, people on the internet. And so that 30,000 realistically, we may have only been about 10 or 12,000, but it's still a good problem to have, considering if you went back 2 years ago, we had a problem of losing 10 or 12,000. So we have to be realistic with it, and I think there'll have to be a compromise. And in an ideal world, again, in my opinion, it would be to move the ground back towards Leazes Park. I know we've got the bat issue that Mitch keeps talking about, but maybe the Botman can sort that out. What is the Leazes end would become it would still be the Gallagher, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? If it's because it's turned over the other way, and the Gallagher would still be the Gallagher because it's there nearest the Gallagher, and the Leazes would still be the Leazes. So, and you've still got a bit on Barrack Road, so there is a win-win there. But again, you've got the NIMBYs that we've discussed. There's so many people that need to be placated to make it work. And sometimes as football fans, we can be too demanding. And I know that I was involved in a thread today where it was suggested that we have the largest support in the country, in the whole UK. You start thinking of Rangers and Celtic and Man United and Arsenal and Liverpool. You know, they're streets ahead of us at the moment on sheer numbers. But we are growing, but it has to be growth at the right rate as well. And I tried to get tickets. I tried to apply for 2 tickets, and I live in Bahrain. And the reason I was trying to do that is so I would have a better chance of getting a ticket for when we get to a cup final. And I would have just not given the tickets away, but sold them on a daily or game by game basis. My brother said he'd take them off us, etc. So I didn't get one, but I'm in a way I'm glad, because I'd rather someone who is able to go every week get the ticket for it. But my suggestion for the stadium would be to move it back, have it incorporated into Leazes Park, and then, as I think it was Steve Hasty said last night, you could have a green area in the middle of the city. Not Central Park like equivalent to New York, but you could have a lake there where the ground is now, and again it would be a new first, and that's something that I've mentioned many times before, that the people in this region like the ones that count. Biggest, first, best. If it's unique, if it's exclusive, they're very fond of it. And if you've got that in the city centre, it could become a tourist attraction in itself. So that would be my suggestion anyway. Make it 65, 70,000 max, and then we're comfortably filling it. And people say, would that affect the atmosphere? Well, did it affect the atmosphere from 36 to 52? No, not from what you've seen last season. It didn't affect the atmosphere at all. It improved it, didn't it? So that's the way I would go.
Yeah, okay, good stuff. We just want to say happy anniversary to Toon Man and his last 44 years. He says, I'm getting old. You're only as old as the woman you feel, Toon Man. So good luck. Hope you've had a great day, and congratulations to both of you, and commiserations to Steve Mowat, who says, hi lads, hope you're all well. Sad news about my uncle, who sadly passed away at 57 years of age. Rest in peace, David Nesta Burnett, season ticket holder in the Gallagher for 30 years. Steve, sorry to hear your news, mate. And of course, we all pass on, our commiserations from NUFC matters. Rest in peace, Nesta. Very, very sad. Okay, David asks us the question: thoughts on a genuine striker target? One from each of you. I'm going to say Lingard still, David. I still feel the Lingard deal could go through. I still think there'll be a negotiation on wages. I think that's a slow burner. I still think we've got a chance. We're still in the mix with that. But that would be my name. So, Keith, what about you?
Osimhen.
Okay.
Without a doubt. I think it's like anything. If Ekitiki's not coming out, say, go big and get a class striker in. There's all of the teams have bought their strikers. Man City's bought theirs, Liverpool's bought theirs. Man United's going after Frankie de Jong, so...
And Spurs have wasted 60 million on a bloke who spends more time on the floor than in running around.
But if you look at the, it seems as though the competition's getting less and less, and Arsenal seem to have picked who they're going for. So it seems, rightly or wrongly, that he's up for sale and he can be got. And just needs to get a sensible fee. I think he looks awesome, mate.
All right, Neil.
Can I just quickly answer 2 questions I got asked at the bottom there?
Yes, I mean, firstly, 974 or something.
Firstly, no, I don't have a butler. She's far more attractive than that. And secondly, Stadium 974. Stadium 974 is one of the stadiums in Qatar. And it's made out of containers. And it's constructed as a sort of a potentially modular stadium that you could move anywhere. And somebody suggested to me this week, looking at, well, look, if we needed a temporary stadium, could we take that and piecemeal from Qatar, ship it over to the UK, put it back together on the arena area once that's demolished, and use that as a temporary home while we're doing stuff at St James's, which I thought was super innovative, really. And as it happens, my architect mate, John Henry, knows the people behind the stadium, so he's going to put us in touch. So, in a nutshell, that's those. Striker, I mentioned him last night, Dominic Calvert-Lewin. He offers something different to Wilson, different to Wood, could play with one or both of them in a three, and is just another complement, another different skill set that gives a different look and different options in certain games. And I think he would be the perfect complement to the strikers we've already got.
Okay, Stu?
I'm not a fan of Calvert-Lewin. I think Wilson's better. And
I do.
But if we're bringing someone in to help the 4-9 who could replace Wilson if invariably he becomes injured, or hopefully not, I wouldn't mind putting a 40 million bid in, the Ekatiki money in for Werner from Chelsea. I think Eddie Howe could get the best, very, very best out of him. And I think they'll be open to sell them. I think he'd be open to a move. And we know he's Champions League ready. Whether he'd want to come and join the project, I think we could sell it to him. And that's someone that if we had to bring a new forward in, that's what I'd like. I think there's less risk of it. And I think with the support that we could give him, his confidence would shine and the goals would come streaming in. Because he's got it. You can see the way he times his runs, and he just lacks the confidence when he's shooting. And that can come back very easily. And let him do it for us. That would be my choice.
Okay, good selection there. Let's hope we get one of them at least. Ron Bennett, Keith says, can Keith explain how ENIC can just weigh £150 million into Spurs transfer kitty and nothing is said?
Right. Depends
on here we go.
Yeah, and I know, because I've seen your discussions on social media about this, Keith, and somebody's saying that Mitch as well would make a really good discussion. Do you know what I mean? On the show, if we could get people involved who've talked about various people who try to take over the club, etc. But let's concentrate on financial fair play. Is a huge topic, but it's one that very few people understand 100%.
It depends, first of all, how it was put in. That's the key. You can put money into a business in a number of ways. So you can introduce money, you can put loans in, you put various funding into a football club, and nobody at this spot. I don't know how any put that money in, but PIF can do the same with this club. So we can do exactly the same as what any can do. They wouldn't be able to do something that Newcastle couldn't do, but we'd be scrutinised more than they would. So every time PIF cough, the EPL are going to look at it, scrutinise it, and go through it. I honestly believe that the way Ennick's done that, I don't think it's a sponsorship put that way, and I don't think they can do it. But let's suppose they have done a sponsorship. Let's suppose they've stuck 150 million in, then that'll be wide open. Newcastle do exactly the same. I think my doubts are that they've allowed the Premier League to build in such a way, and they've allowed Man City's rolled their money over, and they've opened companies, closed companies, and rolled it over to various different divisions. And when you try and track the Man City owners and the various directors, it's nearly impossible. And that's what the Premier League seem to be trying to stop. They call it state ownership. They're trying to stop the Man Cities and the PSGs running football. But now that they've put a set of rules down in place and said Newcastle can't do this, Newcastle can't do that, and they scrutinise it, well, Ennick will have to go with the same rules. So before you can answer that question, you don't want to mislead fans. The worst thing you can do is say to fans, that stinks, it's wrong, and it's out of order. I'd rather just say, until we found out how that money went into Tottenham, you wouldn't be able to say that it was legitimate, whether they'd passed the FPP rules. But you can almost assume that they have a deed to the rules, otherwise it'd be an outcry. Newcastle would be all over it like a rash. So I'm not... I say that as a positive, what happened at Spurs, because I think those avenues will be up to us. But I think the days of people doing what they wanted to do ended when Newcastle were taken over. I think the day Newcastle were taken over, all the hatches were battened down, and I think you'll find Ennick's towed the line with that money. Until we know why, how, where it came from, it would be almost impossible to say.
Yeah, okay. Chris says Calvert-Lewin could be an interesting signing. Eddie would get him fit and improve him. Lots of people saying similar things about Calvert-Lewin. So let's see. Any news on the CEO yet? I mean, you guys pick up whispers the same as me. I've not heard anything about a CEO, and I think we had this discussion as well the other week. I personally feel, Mitch, that Amanda Meerdad and Jamie have got a bit of a taste for this. They're enjoying it, and I think with Dan Ashworth in place on the football side of things, there's no real rush, is there?
No, and I think that's been part of the stuff behind it. I think how they performed in January was exceptional. We didn't have our pants taken down. We negotiated well and made good signings. The club seems to be more than ticking along in lots of different ways. I think they're also still getting the back room in order. People forget how much of a ghost ship Newcastle United was under Ashley, how many positions need to be filled, how many people in positions need to be assessed properly about the suitability of the role they're in and where they go next, and how they will build a structure around that. And so a CEO would help with stuff like that. But if they feel that, and if PIF feel that they're running it effectively and they're happy with how things are going, it doesn't become a priority again. It gets bumped down the priority list. Because with Ashworth in place, the football side of things now seems like it's really, really going to kick on. And so is the CEO a priority still? I think they'll get around to it, and I think they'll probably are prepared to wait for exactly the right person. And if they feel that they've not spoke to exactly the right person, they'll bide their time.
Yes, Stu, I'm happy with Amanda, Meerdad and Jamie continuing as they are. And I think Dan Ashworth will just, we'll get on with the football side of things. And I think we'll progress with this current model. And, obviously PIF have a big say as well, because they're the major shareholder and, they're frequently in town and at games.
Yeah, I think you've hit the nail on the head. They're enjoying it. And if they do bring someone in, it'll also be for the betterment of the club, because it'll be someone who's going to improve on what's the situation currently is. So, and that's something that we're having to get used to, and some people still aren't getting used to, that we've got owners that care and want us to get better and will do everything in their power to make us better. But they've hit the ground running. They inherited, as Mitch just described, there's a ghost ship. But they're now turned it into a full-on 5-star cruise liner, aren't they? In such a short space of time. And it's amazing. I think the only time that they will get one in, if they haven't got somebody lined up, will be when they feel that they can't personally take it forward, or that they believe that someone else would do a better job than them. But they've got the taste for it and they're enjoying it, and rightly so. And I'm happy the way things are. I know Dan Ashworth's come in and already set his stall out and grabbed a hold of things and said this is the way it's going to be done, and he's a very tough negotiator in the transfer window, and that could be one of the main reasons how we managed to get Botman when it was all given up. He got him back to the table and said, take it or leave it, this is what we've got. And once Milan made it clear they couldn't, that's when you started getting Botman saying, well, I could still be interested in Newcastle, after indicating very heavily that AC Milan was his club of his choice without actually saying it. So things like this with Ashworth, he will look after the on-field side, as in the playing side, and also like the training facilities and the youth team and everything else. That's what he's brought in for. We know that he's very, very good, probably the top 3 in the country on it. And given a blank canvas, he'll revel in it. So with Amanda, Meerdad, Jamie Rubin, carry on. As long as they want to do, as long as they're comfortable doing it and the hours that they're doing and everything else, then as we are.
Keep on keeping on. That's what we're saying.
Yeah.
Okay, half an hour gone. As always, action-packed show. Here's the day I met. The day I met, where we're asking to send in photographs of you meeting players or managers, former players, former managers, in and around the ground, or whether they're out on their travels. And here's Alan Baker's photograph of him and Colaccini. And then we've got this one from the Mags, Papa Cisse from 2012, 2013, and this one from Stephen. When me and my lads met Colo, my youngest was obsessed with him. I wonder why. He's got a canny bonnet on him there, kidder. Great stuff. As always, send them to me on Twitter at Steve Wraith, and we will endeavour to get them out on the show. Thanks for sending them in. I know that music does get on some of the supporters who watch the show. Gets on the wick. They hate that music. It's definitely split opinion. And as always, I'm always looking to improve the show and bring in something a little bit different or a little bit new. And with Wednesday nights, Geordie's here, Geordie's there, becoming a bit of a favourite as well. I'm going to introduce something into that show, but because that's only an hour long, I wanted to use the three amigos to introduce this particular section. But this will go on to our show on a Wednesday night, and it's going to be called My First Game. There's some people just got the band to sleep, and that's the television's on full blast. Now, if you hated that music from the day I met you, you're going to hate that music. So I'm going to put that on a Wednesday night show, but I have asked the lads to come up with their first games. I'm going to, obviously, I've told the story many times. My first Newcastle United match was Keegan's last 1984 Liverpool game, 2-2 draw, which was obviously the Auf Wiedersehen Kev game when Keegan left in the helicopter. So that was my first game. And just from my perspective, it was great. I mean, I'd been to so many games before that with my granddad, who George Green, who was a referee assessor. And he'd been a referee in the Lions back in the 50s, and he'd gone into referee assessment. And he'd taken me to Gateshead, Hartlepool, Darlington, Middlesbrough. The only place he couldn't go to was Sunderland because he lived in Bolton and he wasn't allowed to officiate Sunderland's games. So Newcastle was the holy grail for me, and I just wanted to go there. So I got the option to go to that game, and that was my very first game. And all the other games I'd been to, I was allowed to go in my jeans and my trainers and a top, a jumper or whatever. But this particular game, I was sitting in the old West stand, which is of course the Milburn stand, which is no longer there. And I got walked in, and I remember going in up the stairs into this wooden stand and into this boardroom where I was met by a lot of former players. And in that room that day, because it was such a momentous occasion, was a lot of the former players. Bobby Cowell was there, Joe Harvey, Jackie Milburn. It was just like Newcastle United royalty. I had to wear a pair of horrendous green flared trousers, a pair of black winkle picker shoes, a white shirt, and I had to have my hair combed to one side, which, I looked at a picture, and I'm glad to say there's no photographs of that particular day. But it was a monumental occasion. I just remember having to mind me P's and Q's, be on my best behaviour. I was wowed at the fact that there was a buffet in this boardroom, and Stan Seymour was there as well, and some of the current players were there. George Riley was knocking around as well in there that day. He for whatever reason he was part of that particular day. There was also Peter Taylor, who used to comment on was it BBC Radio 5 Live. He was doing the commentary of the game, I think, for whatever radio station he was doing. But I took my place in the stand, and I just remember walking in. The noise was electric, and it was just an amazing day. And obviously capped off by seeing Keegan score, albeit being a penalty, and seeing the helicopter take off with Keegan, and it was just an amazing day. And I fell in love with the club from that moment. So that's my first game. Keith, what about you?
You'll die when I tell you this, because a lot of people think I'm in my 40s, but my first game was said you on show. My first game was in 30th of August, which is near my birthday, 1969. And I went and saw Newcastle play at home to Arsenal. We won by Stu Penman's score, which was 3-1. I remember like in them days, like my hero was Wyn Davis. He scored. Alan Foggin scored. Pop Robson scored. And my brother took us in the Laces End, and that's where everything happened in them days. There was no, it was the only place to go before they pulled it down. Got in, and I was just sort of intrigued. I couldn't believe what was going on. I went in, and I couldn't believe, like, you had to push past people, and people like pushing you back. I couldn't believe, like, when people stood there and just the crowd moved out the way and they had a pee, he stood on the turnstile and had a pee during the game. And I was saying, my brother, there's way running down there. And he's going, I know, everybody does it. And he says, if you want one, you go and get one. I said, no, I want the toilet. So he took us to the toilet. It was the Lee's toilets. And they were just as bad as the Gallagher for people did. Absolutely stunk. So I come back out. I was dying to go to the toilet. I said, I'm not going in there. It stinks. And my brother looked and said, oh, just piss yourself. And he said, because if you're not going to go in there, you'll have to have a pee in the ground. So you either had the Lee's toilets or you had to have a pee in the stadium. So I went back to the Lee's toilets. And I was like playing hopscotch tiptoe trying to get around the toilets without standing either way. It was unbelievably disgusting toilets. But the game itself, when it kicked off, I nudged my brother and I said, when's the bloke going to tell us who's got the ball? Because I thought that the commentary was, the first time I've been to a football game like that. And I thought the commentary come across, they'd be saying, oh, it's now Robson, Wyn Davis. But to see us beat Arsenal 3-1 was good. I mean, in 1969, Newcastle had like an optimistic attacking side. And the crowd was amazing. 47,000, I think, that day. 47,000 people, I always remember, which was a big crowd. That 47 was a good crowd for any league club that day. And St James's then was packed. You know what I mean? The Gallagher was the away end, but the Leeds was just an experience on its own. It might have been a small end, but the noise that came off that roof was just unbelievable. And that was the age of the skinheads. So I got wrong when I got home off my brother. He told me, Dad, he says he spent more time looking at the fans because I was just intrigued where people used to put people on the barrier. They would stand on the barrier and like conduct all the singing. So that's how I was brought up. You know what I mean? Like I was just a kid then. I mean, in 1969, I'd been in a stroller, I think, but it was just an amazing place to go to. And I stood there. I stood in that crowd. I stood there. When Blythe Spartans played Stoke City, you know what I mean? And the Leeds end for me was everything. It was great. It was where you learned all the songs. It was where you just became black and white. And once you got in there, I don't think you'd ever get out from anything else. And nothing else meant as much as that. They pulled it down and switched the Gallagher, which was a big culture shock. Because when you were there, Steve, you're the Gallagher had been the main end. But when I was there, it was the Lasers. And you talk to people who used to go on the Lasers years ago, and they say there's no way I like it. Just a lot of people, and they used to point people out, a lot of characters who knew everybody. And when people got on barriers, they knew who they were. But amazing, and silk scarf on each, like knotted tied on each ankle. And I think I was wearing probably them Brutus jeans, budgie jeans, all embroidery on the back of the time. So I'd be dressed like a tramp. But that was it. Loved it, and kept going ever since.
Class. Mitch, what about you?
First game was a cup game. I think January 77. Taken into the new stand, as it was then, the East stand, by my dad and my granda. And we were there to see Newcastle, who were in decent form, take on a team called Chester in the cup. And I remember coming up the stairs, and certain things stick with you forever. The smell and the ground, it has it's the kind of thing, if you were to kidnap someone and blindfold them and stick them in St James's Park, they'd go, oh, I'm in St James's Park, probably just by the smell and the touch of the concrete and the touch of the metal barriers around you. You know where you are. Seeing the big green pitch, and it was one of those January days when the floodlights get put on early in the afternoon, and it was just instant love affair. Being in the ground, listening to all the tales my dad, my granda, and other relatives had told about it, and actually getting in to watch the game. The game itself was crap. We got knocked out by a young striker called Ian Rush, who went on to much better things. But the result didn't matter. And that's what this club does to you. Once it gets under your skin, once it gets in your blood, it's there forever. Part of this says I should have learned my lesson early on, but you never do, because it just was it was like my initiation into the line of the family being brought to St James's Park, like my dad had, like my granda had, like my dad's uncles had, and so on and so on and so on. And so yeah, that was my first game, and I was taken to a few more games through the end of that season, and that was where it all properly began, as it were.
What's tickled you, Mr. Patterson?
Okay, Johnny Justice Algie said, Keith got Hughie Gallagher's autograph.
Classic. Stu, what about you, mate?
I was roughly the same age as Mitch, but a couple of years later, and although Mitch should have learnt his lesson, I think I was misled. It was the promotion season with Keegan as a player, and we all know that Keegan Mania had taken over Tyneside the season before when he signed, and everyone at school, I was still at primary school, everyone at school was going, but I wasn't allowed to. My dad, being a Hearts fan, he was going up to Edinburgh every game, and so I must have behaved myself for a while, because he says, right, I'll take you to this game because Hearts were away somewhere, and we sat in what we called it the old stand, didn't it? Because the new stand had just been built. So what's now the Milburn stand, it was big corrugated iron on the back, if you remember, with Newcastle United painted across it, and we went in there and we were playing Man City. And we beat them 5-0. So very similar to Mitch, thinking, well, you fall in love with this is fantastic. But I was definitely misled. And this, you have different memories, and Beardsley got a hat-trick at that game, and Keegan scored and Waddle scored. And you think, this is magic. I can't wait to get back to school and tell everyone that I've beaten the game, and start recalling the tales and stuff like that. And it's a bug that is still, well, quite happily still with us now. But the one of the things I can remember is, it's a bit daft, but before we went, my mother would give my dad some Bovril in a flask and a couple of Mars bars. And I'm not one for Bovril. I don't drink tea or coffee, so I thought, I'm not going to be drinking a Bovril. And I got to this thing after half time, and I thought, I'm sure my father would have given me Mars bar at half time. No, so it must have been about 50 minutes in the second half. I've asked him for this Mars bar, and he forgot he put it in his back pocket, and it was all melted and flats, and didn't really want it after that. But the football kept us going, and like you say, winning 5-0 against Man City in the promotion season, you couldn't have asked for a better start in your introduction to Newcastle United.
Brilliant stuff. Well, I've seen lots of people sending them in. Thanks for sharing them. We're going to keep them for Wednesday. I will read this one out. Peter Gould, you can be the first fan of NUFC Matters to have yours read out. First game, March 1957, home game against Bolton. We won 4-0. Milburn played that day, and Nat Lofthouse played for Bolton. The day I fell in love with Newcastle, a week or two before my 8th birthday. Peter, brilliant story. Thanks for sharing that. You want to watch tomorrow morning, 10 o'clock? We will be looking at season 1955-56, I think it is, with George. 10 o'clock in the morning, 10 to 11. Those were the days we'll be looking at that season. So we won't be far away from covering that game, I wouldn't have thought. So thanks for sharing that. But we will do that as a regular feature on Wednesday night's show, and we'll pick out a couple each week. I'll try and knock up some photographs as well when you get your comments in. Okay, one that I picked up from Twitter this week, which I wanted to ask you as well. Take it slightly different direction, Keith. What's the most drunk that you've been at a Newcastle United match? Now this came from Jody Kermit, who was posting quite some interesting stuff this week. It says, mine was Liverpool away in the FA Cup in the early noughties. Some clever soul decided it would be a great idea to put it on Sky at 5:30 p.m. on a Saturday. Our bus left at 10 a.m. I didn't even last 10 minutes into the game before I was hied out. Okay, so Keith, the drunkest you've ever been at a Newcastle game?
To Doddle, and it's been put right. A lot of people know about it because I went on a trip with Mick Edmondson, Mad Mick, of Idols and Beyond and Wunderbar fame, and he used to run trips away. And he's been on he came on one of your shows, Steve, and he mentioned me when the takeover was going through. He says, Keith's the drunkest man I've ever seen in my life in Bilbao. So we flew to Bilbao on Mickey's trip, and got there, and usual story, you got there before the pubs opened, and off we went. So you sit in cafes eating like a sandwich just so they'll give you some drink before the bars open. You're like, these are cafe places, serving breakfast, and we doing everything we can to get a drink. And eventually the bars started opening, and then the guys started bringing this sangria around in these jugs, with a point on, great big jug, and they tip it, and it comes out like this spout. And daft lad decided that I could do it. So I was stood there gargling this drink, and the bloke was pouring it down. Obviously, if it missed you, it went all over your black and white top, and it was like dark red. It would stain you. So I would make sure none of it missed me. And then I drunk probably half of one of those, and then went to start over, joined the round, had some more beers, and then somebody else come in, and they were trying to do it, and they couldn't. And they went to the shop, come over. So Mickey Edmonds said, Keith, go and show them how to do it. So I'll go over and they do it again. About 10 demonstrations later, I was like 2 past the wind. I was like literally lying on the floor. At the end of the game, I've been drinking all the way through the game. We sat in some of their seats, and we got back to the hotel on the night. A lad called Ian Cook from Chiltern, and we got up to the room, and there was this bloke that messed all over our bedroom. Like, he got in, he had a red and white Bilbao top on, and he basically like messed all over the bedroom. You know what I mean? He missed the toilet, everything. The whole room was just covered head to foot. So I just went downstairs and got all the thing. I said, right, get the place. And when you're full of drink, you don't know what you're doing. So I said to him to get the place, and she said, really? So she rang the place, and Mickey Edwards will tell you, they come in through the door, they had all the like buttons on them and all the rest of it. They come on down the metal vans. I stood there, says, come with me. So I got hold of them, drunk as they come, and they were all laughing, and I got them in headlock. And Mickey Edwards will tell you, I was trying to get a lift door, and I've got a copper woman in this hand, a copper in that hand. I'm going in the door, but I couldn't fit through. And in the end, they ducked out the way, pushed me in the lift, got up, went up to the room, went in the room. I says, there you go and have a look. And there's still all these markings and all this dirt all over the room, but there's no bloke there. And I'm thinking, Jesus, what's happening? I says, look, somebody's been in, they've done all this. The coppers were laughing like hell. They're just absolutely laughing at us. But my mate Ian Cook from Chiltern had realised it was a Newcastle supporter, had swapped shirts with one of theirs, and he'd done all the, he missed the toilet in our room. The place was stinking, but he got him away to another room, hid him. So the coppers were then going to take me and rest me downstairs. And Mickey Edmondson was saying, no, he's all right, he's done that wrong. But I couldn't speak. I was bad for 2 days after, and it was all because of sangria. But I've never been as drunk in my life as what I was there. But as soon as you mentioned that, and Mickey Edmondson tells about Keith in Bilbao, what a state I was in. Never again.
Classic. This is a hell of a story from Nicholas from the Felon. Hull away, all motor, full bus locked up at Darlington after we crashed. Christ, was the driver drunk as well? What a classic. That's a typical Felon story. Mitch, drunkest you've been at a Newcastle game?
Probably Bruges away. I made the mistake at accompanying. You've probably heard us tell a tale about the lad who got arrested at Blackburn because he kissed the police horse. If you haven't heard that tale, that's something for another day. And I was drinking with the same lad, and he has a reputation of overindulging. And he's a bit of a beer connoisseur, and he introduced us to Belgian fruit beers, which are like stealth drinks. You sit there quite happy, knocking them back. Then you stand up to go to the toilet, and your legs don't work anymore. And just before we're heading off towards the game, nobody could find me. And we both passed out on the back of a water taxi, and we'd been around the canal system about 4 times. And eventually people pulled off. And to be honest with you, I've got absolutely zero recollection of the game. I've seen pictures of me at the game, so I know I was there, but I genuinely can't remember being there, and I can't forget the bad head I had for the next 3 days.
Stu, there's got to be a classic with you, mate. There's got to be. There
really isn't. If you want to think how many times I've been drunk at a match, then this is going to be a very long show. But I can remember all of them, and it's normally after the game that's I'll throw it to me neck further. But one game that sticks out when you first asked the question was Tottenham at home on New Year's Day, and I wasn't drunk. I was still drunk, if that makes sense, from the night of the shenanigans the day before and evening and following morning. And I remember it was when we beat them 7-1 or 7-0. I can't even remember the score. I know we got 7. And I was just sitting in a seat in the Gallagher like this, like with a noise, and I thought my head was going to burst. But I couldn't leave. I had to stay there. It was too much of an effort to even get up and decide to leave. And I thought I'd wait till full time and just get carried with the crowd. And as I was leaving the Gallagher, I thought, right, what makes you bad makes you better. And straighten it down. And the next day, I was meant to play football, and I genuinely did this. I put my shoes on the wrong feet, and the manager just said, "You're not playing today, son." And I was so grateful to hear that. But that's the worst I've been in a game where I really didn't want to be there, and it was a game we won like 7-1, I think it was, against Tottenham. And that was just so rough. But the drinking, yeah, I'll always have a few pints before the game. If I'm watching, definitely during. But normally it's like I like to enjoy the game and take it in, and then have a good few afterwards.
I remember the Sunderland game when we played down at their place, Liam O'Brien over the wall, free kick. I remember that one. I was starting on that day. I mean, Black Garter starts at 7, 8 o'clock in the morning and no good to anybody, like, and especially when the rounds are getting quicker and quicker and quicker. Wigan Athletic, for some reason, that always seemed to be a trip where I would end up absolutely paralytic. But again, I'd be going away on Amanda's bus. So, you know, you'd be starting at 7 o'clock in the morning, and then you end up at a social club. It's at like, at the opening time, and you've already had 10 bottles on the bus. So anything to do with Amanda's shambles travels, like, I've got to be honest, I've got some very vague memories of. Blackburn sticks out as well when we're 3-0 down, I think, at half time. Sam Allardyce was the manager, and it's the only time I've ever gone downstairs at half time for a pint. And I went downstairs and I never came back. Because I was that sick of watching the terrible football that we're playing, that I didn't even bother going back up for the second half of the game. And I know a lot of people do that anyway on a regular basis, but I'm at least there to watch the football. So yeah, some interesting stories. But
Steve, if you remember one of the first retro shows, the Aston Villa one, I had the wardrobe incident. That was really drunk after a game, but not during the game.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, I remember that. Kirk, I love this. He says, I knew a lad who kissed the police horse at the Gallagher. He turned his back and the horse wiped black snot and discharging him. Lovely. That's a happy end to the story. We've got some great little things coming in as well from people. John put this one in. He says, Celtic away for me. Only thing I remember was Pedro scoring. I got on the wrong coach home and I ended up North Scotland instead of Newcastle at 2 a.m. That's just typical of John, typical of John. Great stuff. Keep your points coming in and all your comments coming in. We've still got an hour to go. And as always, I like to get through the sponsors. And we have got a new sponsor on board tonight. Those eagle-eyed viewers will have noticed. So I will give them a shout out in a second. But first of all, thank you to Spider Miner. The only cryptocurrency miner that can mine 5 different cryptocurrencies at the same time whilst using virtually no energy, and it's VPN protected. Buy yours now at www.miner.spidervpn.org. Thanks also to Skips and Bins, telephone 0800 25 45 25 3, email inquiries at skipsandbins.com, website www.skipsandbins.com. Easy, contract free and pay-as-you-go waste collection. Thanks to L&G Family Funeral Directors, 01913897245, and to Garden of Eden Dispensary, CBD Hemp and Cannabinoid Specialists, www.thegohd.com. Thanks to qtechshop.co.uk, the makers of pool tables and snooker tables in Wallsend, Newcastle, and the guys who run our website, NUFCmatters.com. And thanks to Cleekai, meet the new game over screen, drop into a Clearun device near you. Available on Apple Store, Google Play, and clearun.game. And it's welcome to Mr. Vicky's, handmade in Cumbria, and they're also available at Keswick, Workington, and Cockermouth markets. Now, this is very, very right down my street. It's mrvickies.co.uk. They do different sauces, King Naga sauces, banana habaneros, tamarind chipotle chutneys, and you can contact them obviously at the website www.mrvickies.co.uk or give them a ring on 0176 821 0102. That's 01768 210 102, and you can email them at info@mrvickies.co.uk. But welcome on board this month. Thanks also to Media Arts for all the help with the video side of things. If you want to subscribe to the channel, hit the Newcastle Legends logo in the bottom right hand corner and you can subscribe for free. We are still doing 7 shows a week. Hit the thumb up to like the video, click share to share to your social media, and drop into the comments box to speak to like-minded Newcastle fans or to post a question. We're also available as a podcast on iTunes, Spotify, Podbean, and the rest. Usually goes up 24 hours after the show is finished. If you want to become a member, you can click join underneath the video, or you can spend a little bit more money at the website, NUFCmatters.com. And you can also use the QR code with your smartphone by placing your camera over that. It takes you straight to the membership section. If you do it that way, you can get a cup, a pen, a scarf, and a membership card, and entry into the monthly draw. We're also giving away car stickers for anyone who subscribes. Simply email John at nufcmatters.com and he will sort you out this week. We also support the food bank on the show. NUFC fans foodbank.co.uk is where you go to make a virtual donation. Please remember that with there being no home games at the moment, it is very important that people make a donation to the food bank still, and you can use that virtual way of doing it. The raffle for the Shearer Ball is still ongoing. 99 tickets, priced at $2.99. You've got to be in it to win it. A ball signed by Alan Shearer, 7th of April this year at the 260 dinner, and we are limited to 260 balls. John has been busy with the shop as well. We've got the Bruno t-shirts on sale and the Botman one, which is this week's bestseller, NUFCmatters.com. Get your Botman t-shirt this week from the website. We're also going to give a big shout out to Peter Beardsley, who was back in business with his soccer school, and peterbeardsley.com is where to go. It's this is the latest advert we've been sent. Monday the 4th of July, 6 till 7 and 7 till 8. Ages 12 and over training session with Peter Beardsley and Kenny Wharton. Fox Hunters Pavilion, North Shields, NE29 9QB. Book now and get your information from peterbeardsley.soccerschool.com. So that's Monday the 4th of July, ages 12 and over. That's a great opportunity for youngsters to have a training session with Peter Beardsley and Kenny Wharton. That's 6 till 7, 7 till 8, 4th of July. For any further information, then go to peterbeardsley.soccerschool.com. Don't forget, Tyson Fury is in the Northeast at the Fed in Gateshead next Thursday. Tickets for that are from goldstarpromotions.co.uk. And this week's clue, John from Q-Tech Shop always gives us a clue, and then he gives away a monthly prize. The first clue was the 14th of December, 1939. The second clue was Chesterfield, Newcastle United and Derby County. This week's clue, broke a leg playing for Coventry Reserves. So that's your third clue. There'll be the fourth and final one next week, and then there'll be a question, and then the first person in the chat will win the prize. So keep an eye out for that next week. Okay, into the last hour now, and as I say, we've always got plenty to go through. This is now tweeted. Before I get onto that, don't forget on Twitter, we've got the 3 Amigos mugs, which are up for grabs this week. And the highest bid wins. It's pinned at the top of my Twitter, at Steve Wraith. These specially customised mugs by John. Has got my face on, Steve Hasty and Mitch. The 3 Amigos mugs are available on my Twitter account. And it's the first, what's the highest bid? So get your bids on there. It's the pinned post. We will give you another 45 minutes on that. Get your bid in. I'll double check what the bid is and announce that a little bit later on. Okay, tweet of the week. Quite a few to get through. This one was sent to us by Stu. I did find that funny. NUFC 360 put that, and of course, Stu, that wasn't a direct quote to that. It was just the way it fell on your Twitter, I believe, wasn't it?
Exactly. Yeah. The Jamie Rubin one was to your dad, wasn't it? Regarding when he superimposed them as Botman and Robin, wasn't it? But it was just the way it come on with Twitter. I just thought that was brilliant.
That was brilliant. It was brilliant. But yeah, I mean, if they were openly discussing transfers like that, that would have been quite humorous. Phil put this up, thought it was an old hot dog van at first sight that used to be behind the Gallagher on a match day. Yeah, God, remember those days? Keegan's hot dogs and stuff. I just remember my mum saying, well, where do they wash their hands, Steve? which is a valid point. 100% Mags. You just heard that the Mackhams are back in the Championship and described the image in 5 words or less as to what the bloke would have said after doing that, which is probably about right. This one from Lane Husband, Delhi Bill Salmon pointed this one out. Oh, Popey, Popey, Popey. Oh, Popey, Popey, Popey. Oh, Popey, Popey, Popey. Knees bent, arm stretched, picks feds. Yeah, you know the rest. There was a couple of tunes out this week as well. This one was following on from our Tuxedo Royale stories last week. From the Tuxedo Princess. Mark Byers said, true story from the Tuxedo. My neighbour was down, he used to own those VW campers, the kind with the expandable roof. One night he let his son borrow it. His son drove to the Tux for a night out, parked it up and went in. Partway through the night, there was a call out from the DJ for the owner of a VW camper to go outside. He went outside to see the camper squashed. He parked it under one of the entrance gangways and the tide had went out, dropping the water level, which in turn lowered the gangway, squashing the brand new camper. To make it worse, the insurance wouldn't pay out due to negligence. So there's another Tuxedo Princess story. Thank you for that. This one sent it was from Nicky. New Dan Byrne photo spotted at the club's Benton base ahead of pre-season training. I think we'd seen that one when he first signed, but still raises a laugh anyway. This was good from Denny as well. I've heard from a source close to Botman that some of his family roots are in Newcastle. And one of the first things he wants to do after the signing for Newcastle is visit the site of his granddad's very popular bookshop, Sven Adult Bookshop. That was good, that. It was very good. This one from South Shields Mags. Pre-season 1 week and the window closes in 6 weeks. Newcastle have no manager, coaching staff, no incomings or outgoings. Neil Redfern, the only experienced coach in the club. Players losing motivation and looking for moves. No structure and no ownership. And anyone who's grumbling about what's going on at this moment in time, please remember that's where we've just come from in recent times. That's why I used that. Very, 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 very important to remember where we've come from. This just flies back to what we were talking about last week. Tommy's put, I've seen a handful of Aston Villa fans today on here say we're not at their level. If yous are levels above them, what went wrong last season? I've nothing against Villa or other clubs fans, as I don't use Twitter to argue, but please speak some sense. And you just put the league table in, which speaks volumes. You don't need to say anything when you see that we actually finish above them. Brian put this down. I just love how our football club is now being run. I mean, what business we're doing. Harry Maguire for 80 million, and then Newcastle, who've managed to acquire Pope, Trippier, Byrne, Botman, and Target for roughly the same price, which is fantastic. Great stuff. Scarred for life, spending millions over the years and allegedly having the best manager in the world. Liverpool have won the same amount of Premier League titles as Leicester and Blackburn. I did like that, but they have won a few Champions Leagues and a few FA Cups and a few other things as well. This was just a great photo. Malia Mags, Ken put it up. All the lads out and about in their new strips, which is good. Hope you had a good time, lads. Been there myself. Troll football breaking. Man United have completed the signing of no RFC superstar, nobody. Still got problems down there, haven't they? And this one from Brad Rowe, who actually started panicking when he read this. And I've seen this guy's account. He's been a bit naughty this week, but it was interesting to see this. Understand there are potentially complications in the Sven Botman and Newcastle deal. Brentford have offered them 10k less per week, and the player is seriously considering it. But I just put that up really just to show the kind of stuff that goes on Twitter, and unfortunately people do get sidetracked. This was great from Jamie Rubin. Big transfer news. My nephew about to sign his first contract in front of his mum. Future superstar. Let's hope so, Jamie. And this one from Jimmy Moore. He says, tweet of the week, the Steve Bruce coaching philosophy. Always give 100% at work. Monday, 11%. Tuesday, 24%. Wednesday, 40%. Thursday, 23%. And Friday, 2%. Yes, and Saturday, we're knackered, Jimmy, basically. Fresh Prince of Battle Hill, noon, Black and White Army. Of course, in reference to the new sponsor that we have on our sleeves. Dale, this was funny as well. He thinks this should be a new T-shirt, John. Got to be the next T-shirt, Steve, he says. Again, just with the announcement of noon. This one, you know what I'm like from the old photographs. I love this one. Terry Mack in the 82 yellow away. He wished it was in colour, and I do too, but that's just a great photo from yesteryear. This was one of the ones that was doing the rounds on WhatsApp. Things You'll Never See in Milan, and Mackham and Botman, which is good. This one from Toon Pools. Finally finished a labour of love, my best effort to date. Hope you enjoy it. Botman Begins. Very clever. And this one, which was from Not Grumpy Anymore. If you're a Newcastle fan, you're not going to be, are you? The NUFC signal out to Botman. This one from Newcastle United supporters, Botman of the North, with the Angel of the North now changed into a bat, of course. This one from 100% Mags. Welcome to the Toon, Sven Botman. Nicely decorated there with a little bit of computer imagery, as is this one from Amanda Staves, Newcastle United. This will cost a fortune, but it's totally worth it. So thank you for that. We're coming down to the last few. Toon Tunes as always want to get their first songs out. Oh, where is the Botman, my bonny hinny? Oh, where is the Botman? Bring him to me. To ferry him over to the town to my honey, and I will remember the Botman and thee. Who remembers that old Geordie folk song? Get it sang at the first game. I think you might struggle to get the Strawberry Corner to sing that one, mate, but it was a nice gesture. Sefton Mag on the new strips. He says, how are we supposed to fit into them slim fit Toon shirts like without doing some serious exercise? You're a bit figure hugging. I think Tom Lynch had brought that up in the past. Another great photo from United, the scoreboard, this time in colour. I remember those days with fondness. And this one from Iceman, Botman and Ruben. Very good. That was the picture. Tweet of the century. Very, very good. And the last couple, this one was great. Another fantastic day for a great man. The 17th year of the Sir Bobby Robson Golf Classic. And there he is with Sir Al. The winning tweet for me this week was this one. Gianfranco Giola. Negotiations with the owner and CEO of the new Newcastle United sleeve sponsor were said to be quick, simple and surprisingly generous, said Dan Ashworth of Newcastle United, the chief executive of Noon. Very good, very good. Keep them coming, keep highlighting them, and we will come to them next week. Okay, Diamond Tint says, going back to the previous show, remember Newcastle's penalty saves? Anyone remember Spurs at home 1995? Mike Hooper made a great save stopping Jurgen Klinsmann's penalty after Pav was sent off. I do remember that. I couldn't believe that Hooper had saved it, if I'm perfectly honest. I think everybody was of the same mindset. Great penalty saves. Maybe he's expanded it a little, Keith. Great saves. Your greatest save that you've seen?
I remember that. Mike Hooper, he ended up getting a job as doorman in Durham, I think.
He was working at the Red Lion in Chesley Street.
He lived on the back road from, if you go from Coxer, bottom of Coxer, up to Sedgefield. Lived in a little small farm holding down there. But he's a big unit, so he's big enough to do the doors, but not the best keeper. I think it was signed a Liverpool keeper. Thought got somebody special. Best save.
Or even goalkeeping performance, because it's a tough one. It's a tough one to think of. We can all think of great goals. I mean, I'll go first. I'll say best goalkeeping performance that I've seen probably live was probably Dubravka's debut in recent times against Manchester United. I thought he was superb, and that was the one that I saw live. If I'm going to go for one that I didn't see live but I did manage to watch, it's probably Tim Krul, and it was a European game. I'm trying to think.
Palermo.
That was a superb game.
Mitch, you will go because I'm
go on. Yes, it's a difficult one to be dropped on you.
If you want a goalkeeping performance, Tim Krul again down at Spurs when we got battered, and I think we beat them 2-1. And Krul was just exceptional that day. And if you want a penalty save, Tim Krul again for the reserves against Liverpool, and he got down to a shot he should never have got to. However, it was also the first time he dislocated his shoulder, and his shoulder was never the same since. But he made the save, and I remember it being spectacular. It was one of those ones you could, because there was so few people at the game, you could hear everybody gasp. But the performance was Krul away at Spurs. He was just outstanding.
Stu? Any particular?
Yeah, definitely one that stood out for me for years. And it was someone that was pillared on here last week, Peter Shilton. Gascoigne was playing for Newcastle and he was in goal for Derby, and the game ended 0-0. And it must have been 1987.
Yeah.
And he was fantastic. Seriously, I've never seen he was like a cat, and he just saved everything. And at the end, Gascoigne was like doing this with him. You know, he was incredible that day. And for all the stick he got, you just think, yeah, he was a fantastic goalkeeper. And unfortunately for us, he put in one of his better performances. And I was only in my early teens then, and I was in awe of this goalkeeper display that Peter Shilton put in.
Mark Earlham's
saying
Shea Given rolling the ball out and the striker tapping the ball in. It was Dion Dublin, because the joke went
Yeah.
round then. He was the only Irishman who didn't know where Dublin was, Mark. I think that was the...
Coventry away, wasn't it?
Yeah, Coventry away. Keith, any ideas of a goalkeeping performance?
I'm remembering all the ones you said when you turned around and said that one when Dubravka played. He was exceptional that game against Man United. But there's a game sticks in my mind where we won a game we should never have won it. I'm trying to think it was. I think it was the promotion year under Keegan. It was one I can't think. There's a Shea Given game that I'm thinking about, and a Pav game where I can't remember the fixture.
Chelsea says Beardsley away at West Ham. Dear me, oh mate,
No.
God almighty, don't mention that game. What about Beardsley in goal versus West Ham? Says the Mags. Yeah, all got memories of that. Les Seeley for West Ham at St James's Park, 95-96 season. And it's some great stories there. Good question. That is Steve Middlemas asks, do you think we will get back to the United fan base like the mid-90s? Or is the new generation as united as we think, Keith? Great question.
Do I think we'll get back to the United fan base in the mid-90s? What, meaning is everybody going to be big friends again? Is that what he's...
Yeah, I guess so. I mean...
I think that's what he's inferring.
I guess so, yeah.
I have my doubts. I mean, I always say things from the heart. I speak the truth, but there's that much money involved nowadays. Back in the 90s, things were simpler. You bought a program, you bought certain. You had less choice of things to buy. There was no such thing as podcasts. There was no such thing as there was. You had a choice, really. You could buy one of 6 fanzine, and that was it. So after you bought a fanzine or bought a program, there wasn't the money to be made by fans. But now, fans can be motivated for clicks. They can be motivated for readerships, listenerships, engagements. And for that reason, it gets bitter, it gets nasty. And I noticed when I was doing the work with the takeover that people having a pop with me for spending my own money. So if people have a go at somebody spend their own money, Christ will have a go at somebody else that's been seen to capitalise on the fan base. And I think there's so many different podcasts, so many different fans groups that it'll be very, very difficult. I think what's happening now, though, is because Newcastle are attacking people and buying, we're attacking teams, we've got so much more possession that we've never had possession like we've got now. If you think all the way through that, just take the last 5 years when possession was being monitored, we've got like 22% possession in the game. Whereas now we're playing good teams and we've got 50 and 60%. And I think when that happens, there's always hope. The whole atmosphere in the ground's lifted immensely. But I think in the background, there'll always be bickering between fans. I think a lot of it's money driven. Like it's people trying to get the readerships, listenerships, and there's even a fight for people who want to be in the know. There's people genuinely trying to tell fans. There's some people do have contacts and they try and tell fans what's going on, who we're in for, and they get slaughtered. Some people get absolutely slaughtered just for trying to tell people what's going on. So for me, I think if you know things, you're as well just keep it to yourself, and you're as well just hoping for people to sign rather than say, look, I know this is going to happen. But I think the fans will be united behind trophies and behind success. But I think there'll always be a bickering part of it, jostling for position of who's closest and who knows the most and who's got the most members and the most of everything else. So I've got my doubts.
Okay, Mitch, we've done our own series of fans disunited on here, and anybody wants to watch it, it's in the playlist. We did 3 long episodes. You know, me, you, Keith, and Steve Hasty did 3 long episodes talking about the situations that have developed over the years. But do you think that, you know, the new ownership, the fact that things will be more positive on the pitch will have a reflection off the pitch?
I think everybody knows my favourite phrase about our fan base, herding cats. And that's as it was, ever was. The cats used to be easier to herd in adversity. When things weren't going so well, when we had a common enemy, as you will. That used to make it a lot easier to get everybody on the same page. However, 14 years of Mike Ashley and his almost brilliance at divide and conquer. He placed some divisions and wedges into certain places that will take such a long time to heal, and that it probably will never heal with certain individuals. I would dearly love to think we're a difficult fan base, even when you get everybody together who wants to do the same thing. They all want to do it in their own way, and this one won't travel with that one, and that supporters group won't speak to that supporters group, and it gets complicated. I think Keith's got a point about social media, and we, to an extent, getting embroiled in that. You know, I've had a few things chucked at me this week, which have been amusing, I find. But that's it, I just find it all amusing. To borrow your phrase, I've stuck my head above the parapet so many times my brains have been shut out and I don't give a shit anymore. And so I really don't care too much about stuff like that. It's water off a duck's back. It saddens me that there is still degrees of a need to go on the attack when there's no need for it, when we should be enjoying a genuine rebirth. We've got owners who care, and we've got owners who need our support at times. When, you know, the BBC, and I wanted a 3rd article this week about a 3rd kit. 3rd article.
Pathetic, absolutely pathetic.
Absolutely, Keith.
Pathetic.
You know, it gets, and like I've said before, it gets to the point where somebody who's quite happy to have reasoned debate positioned in the Middle East, seeing how the Middle East has grown in my time of year, and I'm quite happy to have a reasoned debate with anybody about all the problems and all the potential issues. And even I'm at the point now of, just fuck off. And when you get somebody like me switching off, you've gone past a certain point where reasoned debate works, and it's counter. Does that mean sports washings work? No, it doesn't. What it means is I'm switching off to you, looking for absolutely every opportunity to stick a knife in. And that isn't helping me either, because we still have people who have their own beliefs and their own, which they're absolutely entitled to, that are still not comfortable with the ownership, and they want to express that. But engagement with the ownership and engagement with the club is the way to address that. We have a unique position to feed into powerful people in Saudi Arabia to help them grow, change, and interact with the Western world in a totally different way. I love what our fan base did on the response from some certain accounts to the Rainbow Laces campaign. I love what our fan bases did to certain accounts in response to the support for the Blackpool player that came out. Not in our name, not in our club. This isn't how we do it. Fantastic, lads and lasses. And we keep doing it. I said right at the start, Geordies we're not known for keeping our gob shut. It's just not in our DNA.
No.
And that's something that can be used as a power of good, but often then develops into some of these divisions that Mike Ashley put in our fan base, and he started driving wedges in, make it very difficult. There are certain individuals I struggle to even think about offering any olive branch to because of their behaviour at certain stages, and that's wrong, really. But that's what the Mike Ashley era brought to us, and it's part of the stuff we have to unlearn as a fan base. And we're getting there. And I think the one thing that would change it all is somebody sticking an FA Cup in a trophy cabinet. I think that would change a lot of things.
Stu Mozza's asking, do you think a lot of this is to do with social media? We didn't have that in the 90s.
Exactly what I was going to say. I don't think it's as divided as what social media portrays. It's a small section of the fan base, and I was fortunate to get back over a few times last season, and the atmosphere from pre-COVID is totally different. Once you're inside St James's Park, everyone there's united. Everyone there is as one. Everyone there supporting the team. Everyone there's eternally grateful and happy of the riddance of Mike Ashley and the new ownership that we have, that we're blessed with. And when you see on social media where people will attack us, and it's great that we can link arms and have this brotherhood where we'll fight back with certain journalists that do it purely for clicks, and they'll come up with some outrageous comments. And I know me and Keith were involved in a thread today, but with someone that they're meant to be sports journalists, and me and Mitch sitting here in the Middle East, we don't claim to be Middle East experts, we don't claim to be geopolitical experts, but we know a far sight more than some of the people who are getting paid to write about it. And I've said numerous times, I visit Saudi every other month. I have to deal with Saudi wealthy, and I mean extremely wealthy Saudi businessmen on a daily basis. I know their mindset, I know how it works. And if anyone wants to have a sensible conversation, I'm happy to engage with them. But what you get is you get a few knackers who'll say, oh, you said this and it was wrong. My God, look at my account. I've had 14,000 tweets. You know what I mean? And if I've said one thing that might have been wrong or not correct at the time, well, if they want to hang me out for that, then it really makes them more sad. I just sometimes just smile at them, but I also admire the intensity of how they want to go to try and bring someone down. It's a bit of respect, really, a bit of envy or jealousy. I'm mug enough to put myself on someone like this in front of thousands of people and spout my opinion. Not everyone's going to agree with that. I understand that. But, you know, as I said earlier, when we get inside the ground, we all have the same common goal, and that is for Newcastle United to do the very, very best. And we have an opportunity now, the way things are all coming together, where they can achieve more than any of us in our lifetime have seen. Far more, even with the Fairs Cup. We can win the European Champions League and within the next decade. And now that's not me saying that we will, but it's a likelihood, it's a possibility. And we can win the Premier League. If that can't unite this fan base, then nothing ever will. So you get knackers in all walks of life. So a lot of them seem to drift to social media because they can hide behind false accounts, they can hide behind false names, and you know. I get stick, but sometimes I give a bit back, then I get bored and I just ignore them because sometimes they just want a bit of oxygen. With that, we're all together. The original question was, can we be united? I think the fan base, and it's not from the outside looking in, because as you both know, I've been over quite regularly in the last few months, actually. I think that the city is once again reunited. The city is once again becoming alive. You see something that you mentioned, Steve, going to the ground. It used to be a trudge, didn't it? It was a chore getting up there, having to go there. Now, quite literally, you see people walking briskly with a spring in their step, and they're happy to get inside their ground again. So yeah, we'll get knackers that will want to bring that down. Some of them aren't even Newcastle supporters, and they'll portray themselves as Newcastle supporters.
That's right.
But the majority of them, you see them inside the ground. You don't see people complain. You go to the away games, that's when you get a better feeling of how united the fan base is. And I think this has been from the outside looking in, and a lot of it has been stood next to Mitch, just in awe of what a tremendous fan base we actually have. Like getting beats 3, 4, 5-0, and the fans just non-stop singing. That's what we're about, and that's what the owners have bought, and that's the untapped potential we've got. And let everyone else try and bring us down. And the more they do, the more united we'll become anyway. That's just my personal feelings on it.
Yep, here. Okay, time for a bit of a laugh with Elliot. Okay, this week's joke. My dad gave me some advice a few years ago. He said, son, if you ever get into a fight in a pub, just take a ball from the pool table and put it in your sock. Worst advice ever. I could hardly run. Good stuff, Elliot. Keep them coming, mate. Nobody else likes them, I do, though. Get your bids in for the cups. There isn't a bid in, so nothing to the food bank at the moment. So anyone who bids, you can bid £1, you can bid £5, but make sure it's a decent offer.
I'll bid £10 for them.
There you go, tenner. You've got to put it on though, Keith. Put it on, otherwise people will say, "Oh, he didn't bid." So stick a bid on Twitter while you're on. Let's talk about the strips while you're doing that, Keith. The third strip came out. I mean, it's the worst kept secret in strip releases ever, this, to be fair. And obviously the noon announcement as well came swiftly on the back of that. And I think the figures that we saw for the sponsorship for noon, as opposed to what Fun 88 pay for their sponsorship, Keith, I think probably had us all, just shrugging our shoulders and saying that just typical Mike Ashley. And I think the fact as well that the strips ended up in his shops before anybody else's shops, before the official launch as well, had us thinking, no, this is just Mike Ashley getting one over on Newcastle before, as he shuts the door and leaves. But yeah, it's been all about strips today, Keith. So what's your take? What's your take on the new strips first of all? Have you got one?
I've ordered them, and I think the white and green top's mint. I think it's brilliant. And the reason I like it is because it winds people up, and it's like it opens up another kind of worms. Is because at the minute you can go to any bar in Durham and you'll get an argument like that, and it comes around that on the 7th of October, 2021, lots of people who didn't love Newcastle became political experts. That was the day that human rights and everything else took a different angle. And you talk to people who don't support Newcastle, but they know everything about journalists and about death and about treatment and about human rights and about amnesty. And they've become experts learning all this. And then all of a sudden, they bring a shirt out, which is very similar to the one we had, I think, in the 80s or something. I remember having a white top with green edging, and nobody said a word. Nobody said a word when Man United got millions and millions of pounds off the Saudis. But all of a sudden, it's not trendy for Newcastle to do it. So to me, to put that shirt out in the white and green, similar to the Saudi Arabia's colours, I think is outstanding. Because what it'll do, it'll just get fish to bite on the end of it. So I'm going to buy one. I'm going to send one to a couple of people who cheer on about it. I'm going to send them the top with a name on the back. And they can chuck it out, they chuck it in the window one. But I think that shirt will sell thousands, not hundreds. I think they'll sell thousands more because people are biting about it. I like the black and white one. I like the blue one, but I love the green and white one. And that's I've ordered it and I'll wear it with pride because it's just a third strip. And it's just a pure wind up for journalists. Adam Crafton the other day slavering on about it. He wrote an article about blood soap. This, what's it got to do with us? And people say to me about Newcastle. You know what I always say? I say, I'm as interested today in international policy on human rights as I was 3 years ago. I didn't understand it 3 years ago. I never used to comment on it because it was a subject I didn't know anything about. And I still don't. And I still don't want to comment on it. But people, I always say to people in the bar, when you got your master's degree in geopolitical warfare, was that 7th of October 2021? Is that when you got is that when you graduated? Because you know absolutely everything about Nout. And when people go on like this, it just prove them they're the saddest, twisted, most bitter and jealous people you'll ever come across. So
they probably all watch Love Island.
I love the shirt. But I love the fact that that's one of the things that will unite us. So when we go to games and people are chewing on about us, going, yeah, like that, just wind them up. Because jealousy is a terrible thing. It's a terrible thing. It's wanting to be in somebody else's shoes and not being in their shoes, and not being able to hack that they're in them shoes. And you've just got to lap it up, and you've got to think of all the years of non-competing. You've got to think of days when they pulled the lasers down, you stood there and it was about 12 deep, and Idealists put all the kids on, all young ones, Rochi and all them were playing. And you've got to watch it and just sit there and think, there was no money in Newcastle. And when they brought Keegan in and Idealists got asked to leave, and how many years, Richard Dinnis, William McFarlane's manager, Gordon Lee, Jim Smith, you've got to go through all them years when there was nothing happening. But now it's come to Newcastle, get over it. Just get over it, because it's going to get better and bigger and stronger. It's going to piss you all off by the end of this summer.
Mark, I don't think Keith saw the comment. He went, "It's great to see Steve Hasty talking sense, and the fact he hasn't got that white wig on." Classic Mark. It didn't go wasted on me, Mitch and Stu. We all had a big giggle at that one. The new strip, Mitch, we talked about it a little bit last night with you, but yeah, it has been a bit of another meltdown on social media about it. But and a lot of people going on about the size in the chat. I haven't gone and bought one yet. I am going to go and get one. But I would imagine it sounds as if you've got to get the next size up that you would normally get, because they are a bit tight fitting.
Sizes are sizes. And as long as everybody knows that by now, then it'll work out. I'll tell you what I think is worth talking about, because there's a lot of people asking about it. It's about Noon, who Noon are. I think people don't realise the significance of their investment in terms of this region and the doors that it's opening. If you go back a few weeks, I talked about being told that there were discussions being held here in Dubai with certain individuals, and it was PIF looking at ways around these associated sponsorships. Stu can probably chip in and help here a little bit as well if I'm going off beam or getting...
No, I was just doing triple X for the question on the bottom there.
No, but you can chip in if you like now.
Yeah.
I was told there were certain individuals were talking, and PIF were looking at ways of using regional business networks to get around the associated sponsorships and inject money into Newcastle United in a fair and above board way that the Premier League couldn't do anything about. And I think it's also worth a little chat about the numbers and why they're significant to me. Noon are part of one company owned by an individual, in part by Mohammed Alabar. Now, Mohammed Alabar is a very well-known businessman in the Middle East, based here in Dubai.
Boss.
He's your boss, Stu, effectively.
Stop chipping in, you.
Company Stu works for
Language
is part of this group. If people have heard of a company called EMAR, if you've been to Dubai, you'll see the word EMAR on the side of a lot of buildings in the marina in downtown. Dubai Mall is an EMAR property. That is also Mohammed Alabar. And so to bring Noon in, Noon was set up prior to Amazon reaching the Middle East. And they're effectively an Amazon-like company that you can buy just about any old tat on, and they'll deliver it to your door. Maybe. If Noon was a gynecologist, I probably wouldn't pick them to deliver me baby, but that's another matter. But that's how they work. That's what they are. They're an e-commerce platform like Amazon, and they were in the Middle East. At one point, that was all we had. We didn't have Amazon in the Middle East until a few years ago, and Noon was the closest thing we had. They're significant because they raised $2 billion in investment, and 50% of that came from PIF, and that's the connection. So they're connected, but they're not, if that will. Now, other names to look out for from here, I believe, is Majid Al Futtaim, who are another big business group here in Dubai. They do a lot of the other malls. Mall of the Emirates is a Majid Al Futtaim mall, for example. They do a lot of the cars. If you buy a Toyota, a Jeep, a Chrysler, here you're buying it off Majid Al Futtaim. If you buy a Volvo, you're buying it off Majid Al Futtaim, and so on and so on. I've heard that they have been asked to look at options for sponsorships here and there. And then the third one, which is a little left field, is a company called Al Nabuda. They're another family. They're mostly known here as being the main importer for Porsche VW Audi Group. But what they're lesser known for is they used to own a football club here called Al Ahly. Al Ahly got merged with Al Shabab and Dubai Sports Club by royal decree after the Royal Owned club got relegated, and then they merged these three clubs, so they changed the league format, interestingly. And that's where Roy Aitken used to work, actually, was for Al Ahly. And the Nabuda family are desperate to get back into football in some way, shape or form. And sponsoring Newcastle United would be a very interesting way for them to get involved. What's very significant for the region is how these people reach across the region. Stu's in a different country to me, but his boss is the owner of Noon. And this is how it works. There's regional connections everywhere. And this is a company that has no presence in Europe. They're paying 7.5 million for the shirt sleeve sponsorship, and they have no presence in the UK or Europe. It's all in the Middle East. And that tells you the kind of exposure they're looking for and the value they see in that. Now, 7.5 million for the shirt sleeve is approximately a 600% increase on what Kayak was paying. And that's been put through by the Premier League and ratified. That means, what is market value? How do you assess market value? Does that mean when Fun 88 go next season, we can look at 600% increase on our shirt front? Because they're paying the same amount for the front at the minute. We were looking allegedly for 20 to 25 million for the front, not as much as an increase percentage-wise as what we've got on the sleeve. Are they looking bigger once they drop the new front sponsorship after that? And I think it's very clever, because precedents are being set. The Qatar Airways deal with PSG. Totally ridiculous, yet ratified, approved, and it's gone through. And so now precedents are being set that we can ride on the back of. And they're doing it in a staged, piecemeal way. As the club grows, they'll grow more. And I think it's really super clever. And getting people like Mohamed Alabar involved in the Middle East, and one them want to get Mohamed Alabar involved. I've been able to order my shirts on the Noon app this week. I've been able to open the app, go into the Newcastle United store on the app, and order a couple of shirts. They're on pre-order. They say they'll deliver them by the end of the month. My guess is maybe September, and they'll probably be delivered to the wrong apartment in the wrong building, but that's another matter. But this is the way it's going. And these are the connections I inferred that 3-4 weeks ago, that these are the connections that PIF have, because they're so invested in the region. There's people they are already in partnership with who will be quite happy to come back the other way and use some of PIF's investment to invest back in Newcastle United to grow their own business. And the fact that they have no business presence in Europe at all is highly significant when you think about it. What drives them? What are they seeing that they're going to get back on that level of sponsorship? Well, Middle East presence. And that's just the tip of the iceberg, in my opinion.
Stu, your thoughts on that?
Well, just a carry on from what Mitch is saying, and something that he's referred to many times in the past, that the Middle East, if you want to call it a huge sandpit, Saudi Arabia are the biggest boys in this sandpit, and the ones that are the people look up to, aspire to be, want to impress. And with something like this, to me, it's a very, very savvy marketing strategy. Amazon you can't get Amazon to deliver to Bahrain. If I try to get something on Amazon, it'll tell us I can get it to Qatar, which is only a 20-minute flight away. But the problem is, Qatar, there's no flights between Bahrain and Qatar because of geopolitical reasons. But I'm sure there'll be journalists in London and Manchester that know far more about that than me. And we then have the situation where what they've done by getting Noon on, calling it savvy, right? But it justifies more sponsorship, because something that I don't know if you posted it, Mitch, or you sent it on WhatsApp. But when you went onto the Noon app, it was order your Newcastle strip now, and all of a sudden, on millions of people in this region, was it a tweet you put out?
It was a tweet, yeah, because I screenshotted when I'd opened the Noon app. The first thing that hit my eyes was Newcastle United store. Click on it, and it came up. with the prices
what
in
that's-
dirhams, and Al Walid had it with the prices in reals.
Yeah. So you've got that, right? And that's now going to millions of people. So Noon can justify spending that money. For what it does is it enhances the Newcastle United in the region. People then become aware that they're owned by PIF, and they can justify saying, well, we've spent that money on the shirt sponsor because now people will want to buy it with us. This area loves to be associated or be synonymous with success, and they are success. Mohammed Alaba is a huge success. Google him if you don't know who he is. He's a huge success, and he's got wealth beyond Keith.
He's one of the shrewdest. He's one of the shrewdest individuals in the Middle East.
I tell you what, he's a tolerant bugger if he's put up with Stuart Penman more than a week.
He doesn't know us personally, Keith, unfortunately, not like you do. He doesn't know us personally. No, but by doing it that way, they can then justify a front the shirt sponsor, because with the white and green shirt, which was the original start of this, that will sell. As long as they take the gambling bit off, that will sell in tens of thousands, Keith, in the region.
Yeah.
Specifically in Saudi, but it's a strip that shows this is us, and it's a way of people in this region being attached to a Premier League club, which is a global brand, without it being Manchester City or a Liverpool or a Manchester United, who are the three main supported clubs in this area. And it's a way of saying, like, you look at the youth. I know we've discussed this many times. Is it 70% of people are under 35 in Saudi Arabia?
Yes.
They want to be something different. And that's simply because with it being a new country, it's the 2030 thing is because that's when it'll be 100 years old. That's what they're aspiring to be. And what happens to grow, they then have the parents will have like 10 children who then have these 10, and they've grown very, very quickly to create this young, vibrant generation where they want to be seen with a white strip with green pavement. And if that sells that many, they can justify putting 30 or 35 million, 40 million even, make it bigger than Liverpool, because they can justify, look how many we've sold. And by putting the white and green colours on, I personally won't buy one because of the reasons I gave earlier about when I mentioned my dad goes to the Hearts games. It looks far too much like a Hibs away shirt to me. So I can't get one because I'd never be able to stay at my parents again. I'd have to keep staying in hotels when I come home. But joking aside, I think it'll be a huge seller. And I genuinely do. I was out last night for the Egyptian lads' birthdays we mentioned on Jolie's here, Jolie's there. And I was in a group with, it was like the United Nations actually. There was Egyptian, Bahrainis, British, Filipinos, Thais, Moroccans, and you know what? Everyone was talking about Newcastle United, and that was in a Mexican restaurant in Bahrain. They talked about Newcastle United, so I says, right, it's your birthday, I'll get you one of these strips when I go over in August. And I says, which one do you want? The white and green one. 3 people, can you get me one as well? Can you get me one as well? And that was it. And I says, they might sell out like you have the blue one, just to see the reaction. Oh, I want that one. I want that one. And that will be a best-selling strip. Yeah. And again, it's the most cleverest strategy, marketing-wise, because I was a bit cynical of it initially, thinking I thought they'd wait until they could get their own branding and their own sponsors and everything else. But it's done to generate and justify a big sponsorship next season. Very, very well done to their team.
I think the other thing as well, people have to remember, and the significant, don't underestimate the significance of this. Noon already had some sort of partnership with Man City. Why have they elected not to put more money into Man City, who just won the league, and are diverting money into Newcastle United because they want to be associated with us? They want to be associated with the big boy in the sandpit. And there's also minor geopolitical issues between Dubai and Abu Dhabi, and the United Arab Emirates isn't always as united as you might think it is at times. And so why is a Dubai-based company directing money towards Saudi-owned Newcastle United than putting more money than they already have into Abu Dhabi-owned Man City?
Yeah.
This is a sea change in the region. We represent something bigger in terms of a beacon for people to look at in the region now because of the Saudi backing. And people can twist and turn and make all the noises about the difficulties that go with that. We know fine well what they are. We are all prepared to discuss them. We are all prepared to help Saudi benefit and enter the 21st century by giving our sage advice, however little and insignificant at the end of the day that may or may not be. But this is, in this region, they don't give an absolute monkeys about that. They just want to be associated with Newcastle United because of who owns them.
Yeah, but Mitch, it's you and me have talked, and we could talk for hours on this, but if we're talking about being synonymous with success, we're talking about Emar and Mohammed Al-Abar. His company, Emar, is sponsors of Al Hilal in Saudi Arabia.
Al Hilal, yes.
So the most famous equivalent, like the Man United of Saudi Arabia, or Man United in the 90s that were winning everything in Saudi Arabia. They've just won the league.
Yeah, I think
they'll be looking to build there. They'll be looking to build there with the brands that they've got, and because they've got these, like they're known and they're scratching each other's back, and it's geopolitical business at its finest, and it's wonderful to watch because we benefit from it as Newcastle United fans, and that's the top and bottom of it. So we don't need to get involved with. We know that I was in the area just 3 weeks ago. I had the Halal shirt on, the away shirt with Emma written on it. And it's Newcastle United. We sell, say, 50,000 there, right? They'll sell at least the same in the UK. There's 100,000 shirts, ignoring the fact that how much the shirts cost, because the club don't get all the money for that. It's the advertising that goes with it, and it's the justification of paying the money to get on that shirt. And that's where it comes. Noon are delivering all these shirts from the Middle East. It boosts their brand. You know what I mean? And they also get paid for delivering them as well. So it's cleverest to the best of how the Middle East works. And once you got friends, you stick with friends, and you know what I mean. And it works together. They rub each other's back in a way that anyone who thought this takeover of Newcastle United was going to be done by amateurs are now sitting back. And I actually believe we're getting accepted more by the big six, because they realised we're not just going to lie down and let them just dictate us. We have the best legal team. We're building up the best behind the scenes team. Dan Ashworth's an example of that. We're going to be huge, and they know it. And that's why, as Keith and I discussed, there's going to be a record-breaking transfer window, because other teams, for want of a better phrase, are shitting themselves, and they're going to try and spend as much as they can to keep above us.
Wouldn't surprise me to see Emar on something, training ground, training shirts, or whatever. Somewhere down the lane.
In terms of money, like a lot of people don't realise why this big six has this monopoly, but you need money to enter it. And if you think about it, teams like Newcastle's been surviving on like 100 million TV money. That's been the biggest thing we've had, and then so much money for position finish in the Premier League. But if you think what we've missed out on, the going rate next season for shirt sponsorship, the level PSG are doing, and the way Qatar Airlines, and there'll be 100 million to do a shirt. That's the levels you're going to get, 100 million for a shirt. You can forget all the 7.5 million for shirt sponsorship. If you add to that Champions League qualification, that gives you another 100 million. If you do anything in the Champions League, so it's 200 million. And then the TV money is going to go up. You get 150 for TV. So you've got 350 million just for your shirts, your Champions League, and your TV. That's before Man United. You can go on their website and have a look at their sponsors. They've got a tyre sponsor. So Man United have a tyre company that sponsors Man United. They're the official tyre sponsor.
Keith, they've got an official tractor sponsor, man.
There you go. So if you think of that, so the tractors that work on the pitch at Old Trafford pay to be sponsored by Man United. The guys so tyre companies sponsor Man United, and this isn't hundreds of thousands. This is millions. So Newcastle can get 350 million in just for the shirts, the Champions League, and the TV. And at the minute, we've been surviving on 80, 90, 100 million kind of money's coming in. So Newcastle's monies are going to increase 4- and 5-fold. And Saudis will knock anything PSG do, anything Man City do, PIF will be able to do. So we're going to be in a league shortly where we can spend whatever we want to spend, and they won't be able to. And that's why the big six are now saying, "Oh, we'll make it a big seven." I mean, personally, I'd rather smash the big six and just make it a free fall for everybody. But Newcastle will be in that group, whether anybody likes it or not.
Interesting debate. I'm sure it will continue over the next few weeks, months, and years, and we've just got some business to do, haven't we? We've got players to bring in, but it's going to be interesting and always a healthy debate on NUFC matters about the ins and outs at Newcastle United. Okay, we've got 6 minutes left. We've got to cram this in. Okay, two lookalikey. Paul Hepplewhite sent this one in. He says, 2 for the price of 1. Yes, Steve Braith and the Geordie Dentist and Steve Hasty. He says, Marjorie Hasty off to the Tuxedo Princess. No sign of any imitation asphalt boots, mind. Which is Steve not here to appreciate this this week. This one was from the Mags, who's obviously a big fan of Albert. He says, who wears it best? And then just decided to superimpose a wig onto Mitch. So that's you, Mitch.
Doesn't even look like Mitch. Doesn't look like me.
Keith?
That's not me.
Me?
That looks like you.
And Steve Hasty? I've got to be honest. I don't think I suit that. I think Keith, you suited.
I love a fringe.
I'd love a fringe. Well, thanks for sending that in. Very Albert-esque. Speaking of Albert, he just chucked this one in for no reason at all. Margaret Thatcher, aka Steve Hasty. This one from Joe Hop. This week's lookalike entry: Castro or Trudeau.
That's outstanding. That brilliant.
It is. It could have been a winner, but there's a lot better coming than that. Julie, when I was advertising Freddie Foreman's book this week, suggested that could be Joe.
Joe.
Freddie Foreman and Joe Walker, pretty good, yeah, Julie. Ms. Mozza, thank you. I know you tuned in tonight. Lookalike, yes, it's a bald man with a beard, but I can't unsee it. Suggesting that I look like that gentleman there. Thank you. And this one was a late arrival from Sutty.
That's good, that.
It was.
Really
Lee Davey and Callum Wilson, very good again. Plenty ahead of that one. Anthony Lampson, 2 lookalike. Elton John not invited to Glastonbury due to Wimbledon commitments. I thought it was Mitch. It's a good one. This one was doing the round. Andrew, 2 lookalike. Alan Shearer now ferrying new signings between the airport and the ground when signing for the club. He's been called a few things worse than Alan Shearer, mate. Sam Chipperfield says, since when was Stuart Penman a bouncer at the training ground?
I tell you about that lad. He's called Glenn, and he's players liaison officer.
Ex-copper.
Right. And and I was with Mitch last week when he got a call from someone inside the club, and you're getting people like saying, "Follow this man," and you'll get the next signing. I mean, how much stalkerish is that? Putting pictures of him on.
I wouldn't be following him either with his contacts. With his contacts
he's a handful.
Northumbria Police, I'm sure.
A businessman flies in from Germany, follow him. It's like mental.
Wayne, thanks for sending this. Yes, I think Tinsy also sent us that one as well. Lookalike Ross Gregory.
That is.
Thanks, Mark. It's the first time Ross has been included. Zebra fucking D sent this one. Keith lookalike, Keith Patterson and the Shadow. It's from last week when he was trying to get his lighting right.
Brilliant.
James Douglas, my initial thoughts were Gary Neville is looking rough, but it's Travis. Lookalike.
That's brilliant, that. Brilliant.
It was good, yeah. Spenny sent this one in. Steve Hasty?
Yeah.
I'm sure it's not Steve Hasty, but it could be. You never know. He did look a bit like that back in the day. Cheers, Spenny. Sutty says, lookalike Vic Reeves and Benny Anderson from ABBA.
That's great.
That's another good one. Well, yeah, we've had some really good ones this week.
Class.
This one, Dominic Calvert-Lewin and the Godfather, James Brown. He's got a weird sense of he needs to sort himself out if he's going to get down the big market. From Albert, Steve Hasty, he's fantastic, made of plastic. No, we've laid off Steve because he's not here to laugh at. This one from Kevin Keegan. Is it me or is this Mike Ashley's love child? I'm sure we've had this one before. And then Mark Scott suggested that it was me driving. Another one of Keith. Lookalike Keith Patterson and Ron Thomas from Cobra Kai spotted this today.
Can't see it.
Well, it's probably it would have been better compared with the one when you were in the dock. This one was from Instagram. See the likeness there. And this one from Tom, Sam Allardyce and Channel Fleet by Sir Leslie Ward. Going all arty on us now, Tom Dixon. And this one.
Oh, yes.
Very good.
Oh.
Steve Bruce in another painting, which is very good. Ugly Camel, maybe something to do with his genes, but Gary Lineker hasn't aged well. This one, Toon Tipster and his pet monkey. That's a good one. This one, Dan Byrne in Love Island. Some guy off Love Island. I couldn't tell you who it is.
Jesus.
We're coming down to the top 3. This one from Albert. The kid on the left looks like Boris Johnson.
It is Boris Johnson.
Is that who it is?
Yeah, he's actually bit to that one. He actually replied to that one.
He wouldn't be happy being compared with...
No, that's why he replied.
Okay, top 2. This one from Albert, Stu Penman. He's drunk his love child.
Very good. You wanted the fringe as well, Keith. I got one there.
And the winner is this two lookalike Ian Curtis from Joy Division and Nick Pope.
Poor lad.
Jimmy, brilliant, mate. Absolutely brilliant. Good. Thanks for sending them in. Keep them coming. There's an overload of Steve Hasty on hold back for next week. And I've got some we're going to finish on a really positive note tonight, and that is that. There isn't one.
There isn't one.
Wow.
What a positive note. So I played the music for Julie, but there isn't one directed to me this week that I've seen, that I've been sent. And that is the first time since NUFC Matters started. So that is a record. I've either blocked them all or they've all had a week off on holiday together. But I will play the music again and we will revel in the silence.
Red run to the trolls, up, mate.
It is.
That's what I was thinking.
Wait
till next week.
Wait till next week.
There'll be more of them than be dogs with Hasty's hair.
Fantastic 2 hours as always. Have a great weekend. I'm back tomorrow with George Mitchell, 10 o'clock in the morning. Set your alarms for those with the days. And then I'm back 6 till 7 Sunday night with Ben Jacobs. I look forward to seeing you all then. But for now, Keith Patterson, Mitch, Stu, thanks for your time, lads. Have a great weekend.
Thanks, everyone.
Yes, everyone.